Yes, I heard already, you know?
we 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 are here, Head of the Grid podcast, right? We are here giving thanks for the ability to give thanks. Appreciate everyone tuning in from those times. So now I have to remind you, if you get free time, make sure you check us out at ineverknewtv.com. Also, if you want to hear some sweet reggae music, yours truly, Junior, aka the Ballhead, is spinning on WLOI.org. I Never Knew Radio from 9 to 11 on Sundays. Far as let the people know about the Herb documentary.
Yes, I the Cure My Pain marijuana documentary documenting the main reason why most garrison youths use herbs, and you will get information, and then after that now you can decide if you agree or disagree, but we just share the information, you know.
I just want to say, right, because you have to be very careful when you say it. Based on my experience in life, right? For many people, fear seems to be a disabler instead of fuel. And I think you need to use your fear as fuel in a positive light. And I'm talking about temper tantrums and reactions now, right? I'm talking about the fear you have. So, what I mean by this, one, there's this extreme notion that no one has fear. Everyone has fears. I have my fears. Farah has his fears. Everyone has our fears. I think the change is your relationship with the fear and what the fear does to you. Now, I've experienced this where fear was a crippling thing for me. There were things I wanted to do or pursue or do at a higher level. Because sometimes, Farah, sometimes we're doing stuff, but we're not doing it. Anyone keep it real know what I'm saying. Right? You doing it, but you're not doing it to your full capacity out of fear. And what I'm saying is that instead of taking that fear as a disabler, we have to take it as fuel to do so. So, approach that I have has been very beneficial. I'm terrified of missing out, Fire. I can't lie to you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like a person may be scared of they may be scared of it not working out. I'm terrified of missing out if it do work out. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, right? I'm terrified of missing out if it does work out. And I'm also terrified of what I would learn if I don't do it. So it's not the fact of it always just working out, but I'm terrified of what I would learn if I don't do it because I know what I would learn would be so valuable. And I'm a man that love to learn and grow. And I know by putting myself out there, I guaranteed that. I mean, I get the outcome, but I'm guaranteed I'm gonna learn that. And I'm terrified of missing out on that lesson. That is the approach I have with fear. I do don't get it twisted now. There are things that it creeps in. It's like, man, I'm fear. I have a fear, but I acknowledge the fear and I work with it. I ain't talking about jumping off no bridge. So what we have adrenaline seeking. I'm not to speak about that. I'm talking about genuine fears in regards to like you really want to do this thing, but you're terrified of it. You know, you feel you should be doing this thing a little harder, putting more effort in. Because what I've noticed with our generation, especially the younger generation, I gather they learn it from our generation. People can't take putting effort into things and they're not working out far right. And because they're not doing it, they miss out on that compound interest. One thing's guaranteed, we gonna learn something, You're gonna learn something. You know what I'm saying? I think we too addicted to this outcome. I think it's an outcome addiction we dealing with, fire right? We sniffing outcomes. People sniffing outcomes and smoking outcomes, They have to have this outcome, right? And the outcome is a tricky thing because what is the outcome? Outcomes not necessarily for themselves, it's other people's perception. They want people to see that they achieve this thing, or they want to show people that they achieve these things. That's I think that's the source of the outcome. It's not necessary for personal achievement because if people can rule with them, they're cool with being patient for the thing. It's other people's perception of what they're doing. They can't take the fact that they're doing something and the criticism, or especially when we spoke about this, like wow, if you're around people that haven't done anything, their time frame is so short. Their time frame for achievement is short fire when the time frame for achievement is long. You know what I'm saying? They want you to achieve something in a month that may take 10 years. It's a long, consistent journey.
The real talk they're talking, because out of keen observations for the past couple of years, realize you have different levels of fear, and that those different levels of fear, it's all based on experience, right? So you have somebody who realize when people who have a vast amount, who have a whole heap of experience, their fears are more contained about maintaining a particular status quo, but that status quo is not related to imagery, right? While you have people with a less amount of experience, majority of them fears is based on imagery and how people view them, as I said a while ago. Because and I think that in itself create a bigger problem, because when you live your life for wonder how what people are gonna think about you, automatically you neglect yourself. So imagine having certain fears, and those fears that you have, you already neglect yourself in the process. It's gonna make life a bit more harder. Life gonna be a bit more difficult in the sense where you're gonna struggle for maintain that imagery in the first place. And then on top of that, now there's so much different mental devastations attached to that. And the mental devastations were attached to that now, it gonna end up drive you now to it gonna bring you down as an individual and make you can't sustain anything at all. Where this, you're gonna become unstable as a human being. So I guess it really drive from, because if they mentioned something key a while ago in regards to the fears that they have and the way how it designed. And then when I think about even myself too, my whole fear, my whole fear with me having, as a youth, is really about my ambitions. I want to make sure so my ambitions are intact. And if my ambitions fall out of line, I know who it ga affect to, knowing that me is a soul breadwinner. Then for when it even call it a breadwinner, because that there's a whole stigma towards that. Me the soul, me have people who may live for beyond just myself. So I want to maintain and set that relationship to a higher standard then. And also my responsibility as a role model too. Because I see myself as highly, I like to be a role model towards youths. So I want to make sure so I can set a precedence and set an example for most youths. And I can have that consistency across any particular thing I do. So you see, not having consistency in itself is a fear for me. So you see how simple of a fear that is, but it's a detrimental thing if it's not maintained. And that has nothing to do with imagery. It's way beyond imagery. It's more about having that ambition, having that drive, knowing that it's not just about the outcome, but it's also about the process. Because yes, once you understand that life is in itself is a process, if you miss any keen details out of that process, then guess what happens now? The whole outcome gets stalled, and then that outcome where you didn't expect don't go your way. So understanding what that process is, what is needed in that process from me to carry on things and ensure that thing, that mentality where me have is maintained. These are type of fears where me have. If me don't carry this out, then the outcome itself. That's when we reach towards the outcome. If I don't carry out this process in a proper manner and a consistent manner and have the right energy behind all of these process, that's when the outcome come into play now. So that outcome are the goalposts. So we talk about I go shift, and then we have a continuously a struggle and a struggle and a struggle. So that in itself now is a fear. You realize that it'll be a different fear from a person who is at a lower, who is more naive and don't have that experience. Their fears now might be, what people are gonna think about me if me not do this. What people are gonna think about me if this don't happen. What if this happen? Then what people are gonna think about me? No. And you realize that in itself is just a draining thing, and for a lifetime, if that person don't get the experience to know that life for them can't live for them life for just please people, then them are gonna realize that them are gonna continuously be drained, and the decisions them what them are gonna make, those decisions won't be sound and stable decisions that can even benefit them, their future, much less if them have a family. It definitely not going to benefit the family, because them don't live them life in a process mannerism, but as they say, them live them life in more of a outcome reality.
No, that was a great point and brilliantly put together, Farai, because it makes me bring up the question in regards to, like, if you don't go through the process of knowing yourself, right? Can you sound away when I say this, right? just working out in my brain. If you don't go through the process of trying to know yourself, and like your actions are really fueled by people's perception of you, right? I mean, like 100%. We all have a little care of people's perception of us, but I think we have a healthy version, then you have the unhealthy version. Majority of people on that, we can agree on the unhealthy version to the point where their actions are not done. Their actions are solely done, or like 90% done, to get a reaction or due to the perception of other people, right? Now, if you don't, I really want to say is like, if you don't work on yourself and get like somewhat mentally healthy, because obviously you're mentally unhealthy when you're in that point. If you don't get to a point where you're like more stable, would you ever have realistic goals? Because the pressure of people's perception, as you stated, put unnecessary pressure on you to do things that you're probably not in a position to do or capable of doing at the time. It's like you're trying to force rape everything because of the pressure from outside forces. So they just throw off everything because certain things you would do, now you're taking shortcuts, and it's a problem. Like one thing I learned from nature, nature can't take shortcuts. This guy tried through snow, heat, wind, rain, everything. And like that's what I just really observed for like my own life in regards to, I don't know, it works for me. As I said, I just want to be clear to everybody have their own experience. I can't put how I work my life on the next person. I'm just saying what works for me. But the more patient I've become, the more patient I've been with myself, the more compassionate I've been with myself and understanding that things are a process, the more stuff I achieved. I know it probably sounds counterintuitive in the sense that like the fact, because you're still consistently working, right? But the work is more in regards to like my whole thing, which I believe I only have control over, is how much effort I put into a particular thing. So I know people always tell you about goals and this and that. Yeah, I have aspirations and goals, but it kind of sound away fire. But like I know already, you know already, fire. You had a million goals. You know how that go already. It don't, just because you set a goal don't mean it's gonna work out, right? It's not that I don't have goals and aspirations, but my approach, I think, is a healthier approach in the sense that my main concern, the thing that I really hold myself accountable to, is the consistency and effort that I put into a particular thing. There's so many factors that play into the outcome that I don't have control over yet. And I think sometimes people think they have more control over things. Maybe it's an ego thing. They think they have more control over things than they do. And I think that we need to focus on the things we actually have some control over, right? And put the effort into that. And you'll be shocked how heightened the probability of the outcome that you want will heighten even more, or how much that will rise. But you have to first figure out like, what do you want? And also people gotta ask themselves why they want it, far right. I remember I had to ask myself one time that, when I was doing certain things, like, why do I want this? Then being truthful with myself, which you have to do, right? I didn't want it because I wanted it. I wanted it because how I would be perceived by others, and also the how society is structured and what society respects. And I think that's why a lot of people have a void when they accomplish certain things, because the thing you're accomplishing is not aligned with you. And it's just not aligned with fulfillment or spiritual peace. And you wonder why you're all over the place doing things you're not supposed to be doing, even though you achieved the thing you intended to achieve. Or why you feel so empty after you achieve the thing you intended to achieve. That's a cold experience, yo. After you achieve supposedly what you want to achieve, and it don't really do nothing for you. Many people can't relate to it because they haven't put themselves in that position. But for those who have put them, it could be the most minute thing. And when I say achieve fire, I don't talk about no Hollywood achieving or being no star. I'm talking about goals you set. The whole point is to achieve a goal. You set a goal and you achieve it, whether big or small. But when you achieve that thing, it's like, man, all right, what's next? You have to ask yourself, like, I think people need to ask themselves. I ain't telling nobody no be no homeless. I ain't telling nobody no quit their job. I'm saying you have to ask yourself what you really want. And people don't ask themselves. And I know how the system's set. You don't have time to it. It's a privilege to think in our system. Fire, that's the next topic, yo. It's a privilege to think in our system, yo. To have time to think and reflect in your life is a privilege in this system. Because everybody up to here 24/7. Whether it's just survival, family, their own issues going in their mind. So people don't have time to think. So if you're privileged enough to think, right, you have to ask yourself, like, man, what do I really like? That's the whole car vibe. One man trying to justify to me this car. I say, the man want to get all excited with me. I had to tone down the conversation because he got real defensive. But it's like, word, how are you just, first of all, yo, our minds are molded. We have to acknowledge our minds are molded to view what's cool and what's not cool, right? What's status and not status. You purchased the car for status purposes. You didn't purchase the car for the sake of a car. You're talking to me. You're not talking to no next person. You can't tell me that. If I could get you a car right now for $200 a month that do the same thing, why wouldn't you drive it? Because it don't have the status of that car. The perception that that car brings in our society for those who kind of on that vibe. So that's what I mean, making decisions to say, man, you know what? All right. I'm gonna get the car that has the status in the view, but that's more effort I have to put into generating this money and more stress I'm under. And is that beneficial to myself? I don't know if this tie into another reason, because I feel like we spoke about this before, but it's just like people not preying far right in regards to like, yo, you have to find out what you really want, why you want it. Because after you ask why you want it, you probably see you really don't want it. You probably want what it represents, so you feel like you're supposed to have it because society tell you you're supposed to have it. And once you get down to the nitty gritty of what you really want, you have to understand and have a realistic approach to achieving that thing. All right, you hit the nail. What do you say? The nail on? I can't. I'm not good. I'm saying you hit the nail on the
nail
coffin.
on the head.
Nail on the head. Far right. Mm-hmm. There's people there stressing themselves out to go what? Please the next person. I had this perception of the next, but that don't even care about them, man. That's the wild part. Stressing themselves out, stressing everybody else around them because they want to be seen as this figure, as this make-believe image that they need, some character.
Again, I see the fear as fuel come into play again, because using fear as fuel in a bad way, that is the thing, because that person with that and that car we are talk about them no overstands. Can I tell people this all the time? I'm a firm believer in this. I get so mature now that I realize how human beings think. And what my overstand is that there is always an alternative towards the way how you think, right? And even that person, you see, there I mentioned something very key earlier to we're going to use as the point now. You say we can, certain things we have to meds, try whatever we can control. See, in control where you can control, but can you really control wanting to be a part of that status quo? Can you control that? It sounds like a straightforward question, but it's not really a straightforward question. There's no really set answer for that, given depending on the person mindset, because that person want that car knowing say them can't even maintain to keep up that image. Can they control thinking like that? Well, what me would have said though is that, may I explain this to somebody earlier, a couple of days ago. You want that imagery. Be truthful to yourself. Be truthful to yourself and tell yourself, say, all right, this is what I want. I want to be a part of the status quo. That's the reason why you want a Benz. But then you have a price tier when it comes to a Benz. So you go for the top tier Benz, while you could have saved $200 more or $300 more going for the next one and still maintain the status quo. So I'm so realistic when it comes to the way how people think. So I'm telling you, say, all right, try maintain the status quo, because there's levels. You can't just jump from that person who want to be seen as that top person, or you live a life for people and then just flip out that the next day and become this conscious person while we're at every single thing. You know, it's not everybody build their way there. So if within the midst of that, how can you find yourself as less struggling while still fueling that fear for please people? You know what I mean? So even at them thing that most people have to be very conscious for, like learning how to control your thought is one of the biggest practice for ensure so your fear not drive you for go do stupid things, you know. Because you see, if you learn over control the thought, them come to a mind. Because sometimes people say, "Oh, but that's just the way I think." You know, but you realize that the way you think is a dangerous ball game, you know. If you think negative, you know, every single thing in your life are gonna be negative. And you see, if you think positive, not every single thing in your life can't just be positive. You see me, I say, but every single thing in your life will go in a positive direction. Because there's always be stumbling blocks, as we tell you in a previous episode. You can just go up on a mission, earn $20,000 and feel good in yourself. And tomorrow, your roof start leak and it costs you $21,000. And now you're in $1,000 deficit. And that's just the way your life works. It's not that nobody is trying to target you. Nobody is trying to get at you. Life is not treating you only unfair. That's just the way our life is. And you have to learn how to bounce back within life. So you see, this fear thing is a thing where most people put on a mask. It always reminds me of the book, I think, where Francis Fanon say blackface white mask. I think that's the name of it. And so it's like everybody put on this concept of a mask just because they want to kind of get away from them fears, not overstanding. So putting on a mask actually enable your fears them even more and activate your fears them. If your fears were dormant and you put on a mask, you know, best believe say your fears become so active in your life and it start control you to the point where not even you won't recognize yourself in a fire. Because that is the point where we're at in our life. You know? A lot of people doing so much things like not even them to realize themselves. And I think this is the problem start from, you know, because when you don't recognize yourself, you know, but then you have other people in your life where you interact with, it starts to become a bigger issue and a bigger problem because now you start to place your fears on other people. But guess what? No, you're placing your fears on other people and you don't even realize it. And that's the thing now because remember, you know, some of we who put on this mask were parents, we look up to by some other individual. We have people we interact with, and all of that. We have relatives where we talk to on a regular. So guess what now? We start place with fear span enough of them. And yes, even if all of them don't catch the particular fear there, guess what I got me now? Some of them are gonna catch that fear and it's like almost gonna become cyclical. And not even them not gonna realize that them catch the fear because fear is a thing where you catch it and not even realize which way you catch it from, you know. It's only a vast amount of people a small amount of people can sit down and meditate and think and say, no, so I have a fear of this. Where this really come from? And really find the root of the fear, you know, because most people don't even know the root of them own fear for it. It's just something where just get conditioned in other people them. And once it's conditioned in your mind, it's like you almost can't uncondition it for it because you don't even know where it start from.
All right, that's a powerful point, and I hope people really listen to what you said in regards to the origin of fears, and fears come in many different factors. Earlier, I was talking about more progress and doing stuff. Friday is breaking down just fears in general. A lot of fears that we have of different things. Where did they come from? There's a lot of fear mongering within groups when you hear people talk. It's just fear they talk about, scared of everything, scared of their own shadow, especially religious people. Yeah, it is what it is. I can't say really, I'm going to say Christian people. Terrified of
No, man,
everything, scared,
a
scared,
religion fire.
scared of their own shadow. You know, so if you go up around that, as you said, you'd be scared of things that you don't even understand why and miss out on so many. And we're not telling you just go run and do anything. You know what I'm saying? Use some discernment and see what you're doing. But like a lot of people are just terrified to the point where you miss out on so much. And I think the saddest point of the whole thing is that the talents that you've been blessed with that you don't utilize. I think that's the whole sad part of the whole thing. And you know, consumerism goes into that also because a lot of people don't tap into their talents because they're too busy consuming. You can balance, you can make a living and tap into your talents. So you can work a 9 to 5 and tap into your talents to utilize your talents utilize them and that could be beneficial to others. And when I say tap into your talents, don't mean you have to be no Grammy winning artist or no Oscar winning actor. Everything got to be extreme fire. You could be such a benefit and a blessing to others in your community by tapping into your talents. but because everybody on the hustle, and I'm talking about after you met living standards, right? Your bills are paid and you have the basic necessities in life. Don't nobody want that fight. They want the extreme that put them in problems and put you in a mental problem. Because remember, with this financial thing, it's like a cancer in the sense that you want more. This materialism, I mean, it's like a cancer because you want more and more and don't realize what you're doing. You want bigger and bigger, but you're not making more and more money. So that becomes a problem. And you have all this talent that you're not tapping into, which is unfair to you and the universe that you got the talents and you're not using them. And you'll be shocked. A lot of the mental and spiritual anguish you had, I'm not saying it all would be healed, but a lot of it would be settled and kind of toned down if you tapped into your talent. It's like inner turmoil. I'm not doing something. It's like something I'm not doing. Something is missing. And a lot of people can relate to that. And I think there's this idea like to tap into your talent, you got to quit your job and move off to the bush. You ain't got to do all that. Yeah. Work your job, do what you're doing. But some of your free time, you need to utilize all those things in your head that you should be doing. Just do them. You know, I hear a lot fire from the fear. It's always people, my perfect time people. People always waiting for this perfect time and everything to be aligned and they need this and this got to happen. Instead of just start. Just start. Like literally just start. And I want to be clear, the outcome doesn't have to be you being a millionaire or you being famous. Let's be clear. We are not talking that. We're talking about utilizing your talents. And for many people, utilizing their talent may just be a hobby, and that'd be the greatest thing. Some people need hobbies. Y'all don't have no outlet. It's just stress y'all deal with 24/7. So that's one of the other benefits of tapping into your talent, the fact that you would have a hobby to have some time for yourself and work your brain and do something that you actually love doing. You know, so it's like it's funny how everything is tied in when you really look at it. But I just wanted to be clear, and I hope I'm being clear for in regards to when we say doing these things, everything has to be this extreme thing. When you're doing it, you got to be a celebrity, you got to be this big success. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about.
I'm not minute over COVID and set you know,
Yeah,
so you see the
I,
energy.
I just want to be clear. I just want to make clear. I'm just saying, like, yo, just doing something that you really enjoy doing and doing it consistent. And maybe what will occur is that you can practice consistency through that, and that could lean over to other things. Because a lot of times people's first uh, interaction with consistency is the hobby in regards to actually doing something on the heights and learning it and growing with it. And that's a great skill that can be applied to all aspects of your life. So if you find yourself as an inconsistent person, as a person that's kind of like floating around and don't really stick with something, just try to stick with something that you love. Start it and just try to stick with that and develop that skill and nurture it. And when that's something you have, it apply to other things and it'll be beneficial for all aspects of your life. Because any message you have out here fire about doing stuff, it's just, you know, you gotta be making all this money and this and that. And it's like you could just be doing it for your own peace. Something you find solace in, something you can get a little getaway in. And also, too, I want to mention that for people with bad habits out there that's doing things that's detrimental, hobby's another great thing you need to jump into and shift your energy from that bad habit into that. Save some money, save your body, save your mind, save yourself from unnecessary problems. You know, Fire, I'm not sure if you want to touch on something else.
Really, I've just if emphasize what they have been still fire because me like what they even mentioned the extreme part and that's what we really want to come in panto because everything have to be so extreme and I feel like this the main problem coming as it relates to fear of fire because most people feel like say all right you see if I try this particular thing I'm gonna feel it then me have to go, me I go feel it to the extreme extent, and just the fact of feeling it to this extreme extent, it almost bring on a bigger fear. So it never allow them to even start it in the first place. Because it's a, excuse me, it's a whole concept of feeling where people just so, it almost take them out of them zone, it make them shaking at them pants when it come to them feeling something for you. And them really realize it. It's a mindset thing again, because you have certain people who really overstand the concept of, if I don't get this thing right now, then they'll continue trying. But so much people right now, the way the mentality stay, if you do something and it don't work out, it's almost like life is ending, and it's an extreme thing, and tomorrow there's gonna be no more tomorrow. And then again it come back around to the mindset of, what will people think of me if I did this and it did not work out successfully. People will think I'm this awful person. I'm not even realize that the people them I think both never even try things in the first place.
I
And
was,
then
I was so far I was going to say it, because anyone who has been doing something, they really respect, and they see, like, they really respect the effort. Unfortunately, that's a small group of people, but majority of people who never tried anything, like, had the most comments. And it's like, no disrespect to them, I'm not telling you to disregard them if they're family and loved ones, but it's like, they never tried anything. So, like, why would you internalize what they're saying, or why would you hold their view of you at such a high stake when they never tried anything? And anyone who has tried anything knows, like, majority of things don't work out, especially early on. You do scale up now when you get more skilled and things start to work out more and more. But I shouldn't say majority of things work out. Majority of things that you try, no, majority of things don't work out. Yeah. I can say that confidently. Like, they just don't, they don't work out the way you wanted it to. Feel like that.
Environment of a whole heap to do with the fear to in a fire, because you see the environment, you realize a man in a more toxic environment, the fear level is higher, and the further you go away from the whole pollution mindset and the whole toxic culture, you realize your fears them start become less and less, and you can find time to think, and you will even take a risk here and there. And after the next thing to fire, you have a whole heap of people. This risk thing is a thing where we need to really break down and analyze to, because everybody need to understand the life is a thing where it come with risk. Fire. Just walk out in the road. If you just walk out, open your door and walk outside, that is a risk. It no matter the probability, it just that there will be a risk of danger. So it's not that the probability have to be higher or lower or whatever it is, but there's a risk. If you the faster you really overstand, say everything in this life is a risk fire, then you realize say you can take more risk and take more chance to try and make something happen. But it's just a mindset. I really feel like it's a mindset thing, and it's based on the experience. And then you have, as again, just to use myself as the example, my thing, my concept, my communication with fear different based on the levels. So I'm gonna go out there and get exposed to all heap of things from an early age too. So it really make it different. And then even people in my surrounding too, them think about fear from a different levels. Yes, I mean, I say, and then we did see certain examples of people who did kind of make things happen. And then me see the extreme end where people who never make things happen, and me see how them interact and them function. So having that duality of the two extreme ends, I think it really mold my mind as it relates to fear. And I know what the outcome of fear if I don't do this, or if I do this, I know what the outcome I gonna be on the other end. So it kind of keep me more grounded. So now when I think about the concept of fear, it's like, and plus as a Rastafari, you would still usually hear the hell of them. Because I usually sing of them foot and hear the hell of them say, burn fear. I'm so what I mean by burn fear. I'm think about it from what them are saying. Them now say it's from no intellectual concept, but it's just I'm gonna show you say, oh, there's nothing in life that can conquer me. There's nothing that can higher than me for drag me down to a particular level. So I'm just gonna move through life. And when you think about it from a levels, they make sense to them, I say. So I'm really just move with it.
Big time, far. You last thing I gotta highlight. You made up a great point, and I think anyone who's grew up in the hood, garrison, whatever you want to say, they do have that duality versus people who grew up in one environment. So I notice people who grew up more in a progressive environment, they have a one-sided view of how people approach things, and that's why they're so critical of people who don't do certain things. But when you grow up in a certain environment and you saw it, like I grew up around that, and you've been around the table, so you understand that psychology. Yes, you do wish for people to do better, but you understand why they're so critical. You understand why they're so what's the term they would use, risk averse, because it's just an environment that shapes that fear with the mediocrity and the lack of confidence, and it's just resources, just a lot of things going on in that environment that creates that mind frame. So I'm glad you touched on that. We give thanks for everyone tuning in. As I stated before, we have a couple more episodes, new look coming. We will be in the studio together, Baldhead and the Dread. Definitely looking forward to that. Give thanks for everybody been supporting the thing from those times. So now, if you want to hear some sweet reggae music, tune in. I Never Knew Radio, WLOI.org with yours truly, 9 to 11 a.m. Farah has a documentary circulating, link in the description. And if you get free time, make sure you check us out at INeverKnewTV.com.